following program is intended for mature audiences.
What do you say we have a rock and roll party?
All right.
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And download every episode and more at basicallyasportshow.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg,
Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Oh, I don't know what you guys are planning on talking about or what you've talked about on the latest football show, but I do want to talk a bit about the Cowboys and Dak Prescott.
I want to talk a little bit about Jared Goff with Zach about the Rams because, you know, we can't. This is the kind of stuff we can't really get too deep into on the football show because you don't want to give one team like 35 minutes and kind of blow by everybody else.
You don't want to go really deep on the Rams and Cowboys and then be like, oh, well, I guess the Raiders won or whatever.
That was a pretty good game, actually, I thought.
I didn't watch it last night, but
no, it was fun to have a meaningful game in Oakland.
And it's a shame, people brought it up, but it's a shame that, because Oakland's a really fun place to watch a football game when the Raiders are winning, and they're probably just going to be in Las Vegas in a few years.
They need to be in Oakland. They're the Oakland Raiders. They belong in Oakland. That's where they should be. And I think that moving them to Las Vegas is... I mean, I get it. You know, that stadium's a dump. There's no two ways about it.
It's not just the stadium's a dump. It's like the perfect trifecta of the team having to move because the stadium's a dump, the city has no money to kick towards a new one, and the team has no money to fund one on its own. It's sort of a situation where I don't think anyone wants the Raiders to leave, but at the same time, they need a new stadium, and it's just not happening in Oakland.
How far is Vegas from Oakland? I know from L.A. it's, like 4 hours?
It's a 5-hour drive from here
from Oakland, it's going to be a good long ways further than that, then I would guess.
Yeah, well, and the other problem there is you have the mountains. I actually don't know which way you would go. You could either go...
Probably have to go across into Reno and come down, right?
Yeah, you could either go across into Reno or down and over, down through the Central Valley and over.
Not much chance of the Raiders fans being able to commute to Vegas to see their team either. So that's
you know what? I wouldn't say that they wouldn't do that because if you go to any airport in this general area on a Sunday, it is filled with silver and black.
Really?
Yeah. People that still live down here, they take those day flights up and back to Oakland all the time, man.
Wow, that's cool.
So a plane ride to Vegas once a week wouldn't be out of the question.
No, not. And of course, because you got to remember too. Yeah, sure, the people up in Oakland may have a hard time getting down there, but there are still a shit ton of Raider fans down here. They either drive up there or they take the flight. They're more than happy to make a 5-hour drive or a 45-minute flight to Las Vegas, a couple times a year. Not a problem.
Another NFL thing I want to talk about. What the hell is up with all the faux military hats and jackets they gave all the coaches to wear?
It's Veterans Day this week.
Yeah.
No, I understand it's Veterans Day, but why are we dressing all the sideline staff up like they're fucking generals?
Oh, well, it's the salute to service, Mike.
Right, yeah. Come on, Mike.
Yeah. Welcome to America, man.
Yeah, no kidding, man. If there's a way to exploit the military down here, they'll use it. I don't care.
If you want to support the troops for Veterans Day or Remembrance Day, as it's called everywhere that matters, but if you want to support the troops on Armistice Day, that's
11:11 in the morning. Yeah,
11:11 in the morning. Give everyone like a patch. Have a patch on the sideline hats. Put a patch on like a sticker on the helmet.
Mike, listen, I love you, buddy.
You naive Canadian boy.
your subtle Canadian ways do not go here, friend. Subtlety is not America's strong suit.
Why do we need to dress all of the coaches up in head-to-toe olive?
Why are all the coaches and players dressed up in head-to-toe pink for a month?
See, that's another thing I wanted. Can we just screw the subtlety?
Well, you know what? I think the pink wasn't that bad. Not to say it was good by any definition, but it didn't seem like it was there every single week.
The pink peaked a few years back when it got really obnoxious, and I think they've smartly toned it down since then.
Right, but nobody can get mad at the military, which is like, people can get mad at pink because it's bright and obtrusive and it's not a manly football color.
Mm-hmm.
But, if you're going to dress everybody up in camo, no one's going to think twice about it.
I'm just waiting for the inevitable conclusion of all this, where for 2 months straight, everyone just wears pink camo accessories.
Oh, there you go. The confluence of events, the perfect solution.
2 full months. Two full months of that.
Breast cancer awareness supports the military. There you go, NFL. Pay me now, please.
I think last night, it was David Carr, or not David, what's his name? The quarterback for the
Derek Carr.
Derek Carr for the Raiders. I could have swore I saw like this little Air Force sticker on his helmet, which I think that's if you're going to do it, that's the way to go. Pick the service you want to represent. You just slap a little sticker on the helmet, and that's it. You don't need to. I mean, you want to show respect to the military, and show them respect and quit trying to dress like them. That just drives me nuts. I mean, it's a lot worse in college too.
The only teams that can wear camo are the actual service academies.
Right. Yeah. Show them the respect by trying to, respect their uniform and not try to, I don't know. I mean, but there'll be people that'll go out and buy the sweatshirts because that's all it is basically. It was an advertisement for stuff you can buy on NFL.com on the shop. Simple as that.
It's not even the NFL. This week you're going to see it all in the NHL too. Last night was the Ducks military night. They gave out camo hats. They wore camo jerseys during warm-ups. And the backup goalie was wearing a camo hat on the bench, too.
Oh, brother.
By the way, it's an 8-hour drive from Oakland to Vegas. Down through the Central Valley, make a left at Bakersfield.
If you wanted to make a weekend of it, that'd be real easy to do.
Or an hour and 25-minute plane flight.
Yeah, either way. That's very doable.
That's definitely doable, if, like, in the week leading up to that, you just really get some good uses out of your shanking knife and,
We'll see, and the other
some
thing
extra
is
cash.
And the other thing you got to think about, too, when it comes to that, taking a day trip up to Oakland, okay, you're going to take a day trip up to Oakland. You can take a weekend trip to Vegas.
Yeah.
If the Raiders are playing in Vegas that weekend, you go up on a Friday, you stay through Sunday.
That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
People do it all the time down here just to go bet the NFL on a weekend in Vegas. If they actually have their team there, God knows they're going to go.
Yep. Yeah. I agree.
And again, I do think it's immensely fitting that, the state that actually gets hosed for for almost $1 billion on a stadium, it would be Nevada, wouldn't it?
I don't understand why one of these casinos doesn't just write a check and go, here, build whatever you want. Because
casinos like making money.
Yeah, but they've got the money. They do. I mean, geez, $1 billion I don't know. I mean, maybe they don't make that much a year. I don't really know, but I'm not much of a gambler. I mean, I would love to go out and bet a little sports, but I'm not a blackjack, roulette type person. It's not my thing.
And here's the thing you have to realize about.
I'm quite good at blackjack, but not good enough for it to not be dangerous to myself.
The thing with the state of Nevada, too, when it comes to paying this money, have you ever looked at a map of Nevada, like, as to what's actually in it?
It's Vegas and Reno, and I think that's about it.
Vegas, Reno, Tahoe, and that's about it.
I keep forgetting about Tahoe, and I really liked that one movie that was set there, Smoking Aces. Sorry.
Reno is right next to Tahoe and Carson City. It's kind of, all like that. But it's a whole lot of when it comes to states in the union where there's absolutely nothing in them. Vegas is the leader. Like,
what about Utah?
I know Utah has things. Utah has, Park City and
Mormons,
yeah.
Salt Lake City and
speaking of which,
Arches National Park, right? That's a thing.
Speaking of which, Utah might give us the first instance of a third-party candidate winning a state in forever. They've got that.
There?
Is it that?
Not Gary Johnson. It's Evan McMullen.
No, the Egg McMuffin guy. Yeah.
Yeah, Egg McMuffin guy. He's an anti-Trump conservative who is mounting an independent campaign, and he's not getting any traction anywhere except Utah because, shock of shocks, he's a Mormon. And the last polls I saw, it was Trump had a comfortable lead in Utah, but this guy was making just enough headway that people have been saying maybe. So I don't know. It could be the first time since I think McGovern won some southern states.
Well, it's going to be the apocalypse one way or the other, so just, strap in. We got the first sign of it with the Cubs, so we got that out of the way before we all died.
If you think about it, really, we're pretty much fresh out of curses. Everything's pretty much been tidied up and taken care of.
All those things. Well, I just want to see blank happen before I die. Well, let's all happen. Cleveland won a title.
The Cubs were world champions.
The Sharks made the Stanley Cup final.
Right. The Blues beat the Blackhawks in the playoffs.
The Blues beat the Blackhawks. Leicester City won the Premier League. Everything's turning up.
Chimp Mariachi Band finally broke through and won one for the Chimp Conference in the GTOV.
Yeah. There's nothing really else to play for anymore.
No, I'm telling you.
You're just running out the string.
So now we are really set up for the world to end tomorrow because everything's done. It's taken care of. The list is complete. Yep. That's it.
The Leafs fans can die with a little spark of hope. This is the year, and then, that's when they die. So
I don't think this is going to be the year, but, God damn it.
Hey, speaking of hockey teams,
talents,
how about the shellacking my boys put on the Canadiens the other night?
Oh. Yeah.
Wow.
Buckeyes 10, Alouettes 0.
Wow.
Goodness gracious.
I don't know if the Jackets ever scored 10. I mean, I can't think they've. I mean, that's not a common score, but have they ever scored 10 before?
I don't think so. The last time anyone scored 10 was in 2004, I thought I read. That was pretty entertaining.
Were the Canadiens still undefeated at that point, or they lost already?
That was their first regulation loss.
Wow.
Yeah. The Bees just turning a corner here in the last couple of weeks. They're starting to put together some solid efforts.
They're not half bad. They might make a run at a playoff spot. You never know.
Any final thoughts, Greg, on the 2016 Cleveland Indians?
They had a great year. The only thing I would say is that getting that 3-1 lead was probably the worst thing that could have happened. If it had been the other way around, like say they'd come home down 3-2, I don't think it would have been as big a deal. But I thought it was a great series. What do you guys think?
I didn't think I'd ever see a baseball game that could top that Toronto-Texas Game 5. This Game 7 topped it.
You think about great World Series games. You can think about like the Cardinals-Rangers game with the David Freese home run. Even from a personal standpoint, the Angels and the Giants. That's what was it, Game 6?
Yep.
Just incredible games. But for a game like that, I think it probably had something more to do with the fact that so much history was on the line one way or another. But for a game like that didn't involve 80% of the country's team, to get that many people that emotionally involved in a baseball game is something to behold. And that game, it had literally everything you could have ever wanted in a baseball game. You get, blown leads, you get home runs, you get, questionable calls, some replay controversy. You get a rain delay, for God's sake.
That rain delay, I actually screamed no when I saw the tarps coming out. Right? I screamed no at my TV.
That rain delay, and again, this is going to sound like a total homer thing here, but I think that killed the Indians. That gave the Cubs enough time to gather themselves back together and go, okay, let's go out and do this, because the Indians had them on the ropes. And I think if the rain delay doesn't happen, we're probably talking a completely different ending to that World Series.
When the Indians tied it up at 6-all, I thought, that's it, Cleveland's winning.
I like the momentum that they had going, but man, oh man, the Cubs had them beat that whole game. And then when Rajai Davis hit that home run, oh my God. I was like, this can't be happening.
When they tied on the home run, it just while the Cubs were ahead and they seemed fine, once they tied it, it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
No. We thought about, well, if the Cubs are going to lose, maybe they'll lose quickly. No. If the Cubs were going to lose the World Series, they were going to lose it like that. They were going to have a lead going into the late stages of Game 7 after making a big comeback, and then they were just going to have the rug pulled out from underneath. That's because that's just how the Cubs live.
Yeah, that would have been the Cubsiest way to end that World Series if Cleveland would have ended up winning.
And I do think that
you get the now legendary speech from Jason Hayward.
Or Jason Hayward, right, yeah.
And then, the Cubs come out and...
Which will probably go down in Chicago sports lore as like the greatest speech of all time.
And, of course, they give up a run, too. So it's like, oh, no, this is really going to happen, isn't it?
It was, well, I mean, it was really quite an emotional roller coaster, I'll be honest with you. It was just like, man, because I was pretty much resigned to the fact that it was over. And then Davis hits the home run. It's like, oh my God, we're back in this. Then the rain delay came, and I was like, Mike, no, because this gives the Cubs, because you've got a team on the ropes like that, you've got to go for it right then and there, and you weren't able to because the game was stopped. And I mean, that's nobody's fault. It's just the way it turned out. The thing that pisses me off the most, and I get it because it's Cleveland and all, but look, yeah.
It's Cleveland.
But this was not the drive or the fumble or any of the other stuff. They just lost to a better team. And I think that it's a shitty thing to do to a really great Chicago Cubs team to go, oh, the Indians blew this series. No.
This was a great game. I think you said it best, Greg, where it's like, can we just end the game and declare both teams co-world champions? Because it was such a back and forth game. Like, you're right. This isn't the drive or the fumble where it's like Cleveland had it won and then someone derped away victory. Like, this was just a good baseball game, and someone had to win.
Yep. The merciful thing to do at that point when it was tied was just go, okay, just stop it now, because both of these fan bases have endured enough at this point. Mm-hmm. You know, just like, okay, that's that. We're going to just call it here. You guys both get rings, and we'll figure it out next year. But yeah, I just don't like the fact that people are like the Indians choked, because look, stepping away from it and taking my fandom out of it, the Indians had a starting pitcher and a half, basically. And managed to get that team down 3-1, and I mean, it was just like when they played the Blue Jays. It was just like, you know, get out front and hang on for dear life, and that's what they did. But the Cubs they're really, really good. There's a reason that team won 103 games this year, and it's not because the Indians suck. It's because they're that fucking good. If you didn't kill them dead, they were going to win. Simple as that.
Again, just a fantastic baseball game, and I think if anyone had a you know, quote unquote drive moment, it was the Cubs giving up the lead that they gave up. It was just an almost evenly contested baseball game, and someone had to lose, and that's all there is to it. No one choked away anything.
No, really, if had the Cubs lost, that they would have been the ones that choked, I think. Even though they were down 3-1 and got it to Game 7, they still would have been the ones that choked it away, because they're clearly the better team. I mean, does anybody even want to debate that?
They were the best team in baseball.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. And this is just my personal observation, but I had no idea how much this meant to Cubs fans. I mean, I knew that it was important, but wow. Just I was just like, Jesus, you know.
Their parade, I think, was recorded as the 7th largest gathering in human history.
Yeah, it just meant so. And I'm not saying that it didn't mean anything to us, but I think we talked about it last week. It's not like the Cubs are part of the Chicago sports. I mean, they are obviously, but it's a different thing than, like, you know, being a Blackhawks fan, the Bears, Bulls, whatever. The Cubs are like their own entity. And it's not like here we're like, well, you know what, the Cavs won, we're okay. I mean, it was like, Jesus, I mean, it really meant a lot to them.
It wasn't just for the people that were watching it. It was for their fathers or their parents, their grandparents, even their great-grandparents. It meant so much to so many people for so many generations, especially because it's like you could say like my grandfather was born, lived, and died as a Cubs fan. Never saw them win. Right. People were visiting their grave sites, so they went to Wrigley Field, and there's this brick wall that everyone was writing loved ones' names on, but didn't get a chance
that
to see
legitimately got me choked up for a moment.
The one that got me, the one where I said, you know what, I don't want to be the team that took this away from them, was when I saw the guy drove 6 hours to sit by his dad's grave and listen to Game 7. I thought, Jesus, you know what? I don't want to be the guys that took that away from them. Let somebody else do that. I'm fine with it the way it turned out, because it amazed me. I mean, it meant a lot here, but I don't think it meant near as much here as it did to them. It was just the stuff I saw, like you said, Mike, just the name writing and all that stuff. It was just like, man, this is a big deal to them.
I also want to say my condolences to White Sox fans, because no one's going to remember 2005.
Well,
nobody does. Did you remember that the White Sox had won in 2005? Because I'd forgotten almost.
Oh, no, I remember it. They swept the Astros, and it was like one of the greatest pitching performances in World Series history.
Not to be a dick with the Cubs win, obviously it was one of the greatest World Series performances of all time in 2016, and I'm incredibly happy that I got to see, you know, history to that extent being made. Mm-hmm. But if I were from the Chicago area, I would probably be a White Sox fan.
I'm with him. I would be too.
I can't really explain it. I think like I've never had any negative feelings towards the Cubs whatsoever. I've never really thought anything negative about that team, but I've always just kind of liked the White Sox as an entity, and I can't really put into words why. I just always like them.
I feel the exact same way. It's not a thing against the Cubs, but you know, as we are all well aware of, if you listen to this show, there's a lot of teams in baseball that I like and some that I don't like, and the Cubs don't fall into either category. They're just kind of there to me. Look, I think it's great from a baseball history standpoint. What happened this year is fantastic, and thank God for them, it's finally over. But if I had to make the choice, I'd be a White Sox fan too. And it's not a knock on the Cubs. I don't hate them or anything. It's just that if I had to make a choice, that's who I'd go with.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And so I'm always going to remember the 2005 Chicago White Sox.
I just remember that White Sox. The fact that they did win too was like, oh, the White Sox won, but not the White Sox can win it.
but not the Cubs.
Yeah, that was tough for Cubs fans to swallow, I'm pretty sure, too. Because the Cubs, that was just a couple years after the Bartman game, too, that happened.
It was 2 years after the Bartman game, 1 year after the Red Sox broke their curse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're a Cubs fan in 2005, you're like, what the hell?
I mean, you've got to be thinking.
Screw everybody.
Right.
How am I still a baseball fan at this point?
It's like, okay, the Red Sox get theirs and the fucking White Sox? Really? And we're still sitting here? Yeah. It's
the team that once wore shorts?
I think that's one thing that, I think about the White Sox. There's nothing really to the White Sox as, a whole that I gravitate to. The uniform history is all over the place. They had Frank Thomas once.
See, here's the thing. Their uniform history's been all over the place, but aside from that shorts fiasco, I actually kind of like all the White Sox uniforms.
The only one I never cared
for. The batter is stupid.
I like that one, actually.
The beach towel,
I really like
the beach towel ones with the the throwbacks, the 83 throwbacks.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing, too, that's weird about the White Sox, and people probably don't remember this, but, the Cubs won their division in 84, and the White Sox won theirs in 83. It's like the White Sox were always there first to, break the little, mini droughts or whatever. Okay, the Cubs did it in 84, but, the White Sox are we did that last year. Cubs finally get the World Series, we did ours in 2005, whatever.
Comiskey's kind of an ugly ballpark. We keep calling it Comiskey. Guaranteed rate field.
They should get thrown out of Major League Baseball on that alone, right there.
Have you seen the logo for the field?
Yes, it looks so stupid.
It looks so bad.
God.
Have you seen it, Greg?
I thought somebody was making a joke when they called it that. I really did. I'm like, oh, that's funny.
You just thought it was like smug Cubs fans.
Right, I did. I thought it was a funny joke. And then I'm like, oh, my God, that's real. That's real.
I was talking to my dad about that recently, and and this whole Cubs win the World Series thing got us talking about Chicago baseball. And my dad was going like, "Oh, the White Sox, do they still play at New Comiskey?" And I'm like, "Well, it's the same building."
Funny story.
Oh my God, that's horrible.
Terrible.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
I still think it's better than the O.Co Coliseum.
No. Guaranteed rate field, I honestly God thought it was made up. I thought it was a funny joke. I never thought O.Co or whatever it was. That's at least you didn't look at that and go, oh, that's funny. You just went, oh, that's terrible. This I thought was funny. And then I went, no, it's real.
Guaranteed rate field.
Wow, that's too bad. I know that the old Comiskey, a buddy of mine went there and said it was actually a pretty cool park.
I've heard stories that the old one was good.
Yeah. So I don't know, but as far as the World Series goes, it was a great World Series. I'm not hanging my head, I mean, I think Cleveland fans are fine, and Cubs fans seem to be really enjoying. Oh my God.
That's the logo as it is on top of the stadium.
Oh my God.
And I just want to also congratulate the Chicago Cubs on the 21-24 World Series. Congratulations on that too, guys.
Yeah. Also, as you can see in this logo, or the one I just posted, the field actually has football numbers on it because that's where Northern Illinois and Toledo played. Greg.
When? Just recently?
It's happening tomorrow. Wednesday night action at Guaranteed Rate Field.
Oh, man.
Perfect place to play some midweek action.
Yeah, I suppose.
Some midweek action. Jesus Christ.
Anyway, so any more thoughts on the World Series? I mean, it was great and fun.
Amazing.
I was not entirely functional the next day. That was a late night to be watching baseball, especially that rain delay.
I got to be honest, it got to a point probably about mid-game 6 where I'm like, just get this over with. I don't know where anybody get the idea that your team being in the championship is fun, because it's not. It's misery. It's absolute misery. All you're doing is you're sitting around miserable for 7 games hoping that you get the cheer at the end. That's what it is. Ask Andy. He'll tell you. I completely understand him now. I totally get it. Totally get it. The couple score a run, I'm like, fuck, that's it. And I do the whole thing he does. I just was smart enough not to post it on the boards. I'd wait till I calmed down, and then I'd say something. But I totally understand that it was abject fucking misery the whole time.
I wanted to ask you, Greg, as somebody that was emotionally involved in the series, and I saw what your solution was. But your thoughts on Joe Buck for the 2016 World Series?
Wow. I really wish you hadn't asked me that because you guys know I've always stuck up for Joe. I really have.
Yeah. And I personally, as somebody that didn't have a horse in the race, I thought he did an amazing job. I actually, over the last few years, you can tell he's not mundane. Eli Manning drops back. He puts some emotion into his calls now. He's having fun calling a baseball game, which is great. And I enjoyed his work, but as somebody with a horse in the race, it sounds like Cubs fans weren't happy with him and Indians fans weren't happy with him. So,
which tells me he did a good job. If we were both pissed off at him, then he was doing it right. But there were times where I thought, if you'd asked me last week, I would have gone on a 20-minute rant about what a fucking Cubs homer this guy is. But now that I've calmed down, the truth of the matter is that when your team's doing well and he's excited, you don't notice it. When their team does something well and he gets excited, you're like, wait a minute, that's not right. And I guarantee if you got a Cubs fan on, they'd be like, man, when the Indians were beating us, he was all over them. And now it's just everybody's mad at him, so he must have done okay. I thought they went overboard with Kyle Schwarber a little bit.
But that's still a pretty damn amazing thing for him.
It really is. It really is impressive. When they said he was coming back, I'm like, really?
Yeah. Well, the fact that he was coming back was amazing enough, but the fact that he was like
really
good. Yeah. He was effective. He wasn't just some dude going out there, not Kirk Gibsoning it up and just kind of like throwing his bat at the baseball. Well, he contributed, got some hits.
People can talk about the Indians choking all they want, but I got to tell you, every time that team got somebody on base, I got scared to death because you knew what they were capable of. You knew it from game one all the way through to the very end. You knew that at any moment they could just blow up all over you. Same with Mike's Blue Jays. It was the same way. He'll tell you. The Indians would be up 3-0. I'd be like, I'm scared to death because the Jays would get two guys on. It's like, fuck, here we go. Because that's just how good these teams are at hitting.
I honestly believe that if the Jays had gotten past the Indians, then every game in the World Series would have been like 10-12.
Maybe, yeah. I think Buck did a good job. I think you're right. Again, a week ago, I would have been like, no way, it was a total Cubs homer. But no, I wasn't mad at him for the first 5 games. Didn't bother me a bit. Or the first 4. He was fine. It was game 6 and 7 where he pissed me off, of course, because my team was losing.
Yeah, and if anybody has any thoughts on Joe Buck, I actually encourage you to go find the Jonah Carey podcast and listen to This Week He Had Buck On. Very good. You got kind of more of an insight into how Joe Buck thinks and how he's kind of evolved as a broadcaster. I really enjoyed it, and I have a more of an appreciation for him than I did before.
Anybody that's listened to the show knows that I've always stuck up for the guy. But this time he said...
And anybody that listens knows that I thought that he's blown a lot of calls because of his under-enthusiasm. But as I said, I think he's definitely improved that over the last few years. And
like I told you last week, I didn't hear him call the final out because it was raining here in my direct TV.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I heard him start yelling, and then I'm like, oh my God. And then it just stopped. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Because I thought, well, maybe the Indians just hit a home run. Who knows what? And then they came back and the Cubs were celebrating. But I never saw the final out. Still haven't seen it yet. So in my mind, the thing's still going on, I guess. I don't know. But it was. I will just say this. It was a lot of fun. Just a great series. Congrats to the Cubs. You guys earned it. No question about it. And I'd like to see it all happen again next year. Maybe we win this time. I don't know.
Dak Prescott and whether or not the Cowboys go with Tony Romo.
Zach and I have talked about this quite a bit, and I think we both agree that they should stick with Prescott.
They can't do anything else, right?
Well, Jerry Jones has said that it's going to be Tony Romo.
But you can't do that.
At what point does it just become Jerry Jones is more interested in putting on an entertainment product than he is running a football team?
What are they now, 7-1?
Mm-hmm.
They came out yesterday and they beat up a Browns team, which is what they're supposed to do, and that's what they did. And I think short of the Patriots, they're probably the best team in the NFL right now. I don't know how you mess with that.
I guess from Jerry's perspective, he paid Tony Romo all that money, but, that's ultimately on him.
Do you want to worry about how much you're paying somebody, or do you want to win? To me, a 7-1 team, you just step back and go, even Jason Garrett's not able to screw this up. That's how good they are this year. Mm-hmm. I don't mess with it.
We've talked about it plenty before on the football show. You got a good thing going. It's not like Carson Wentz where you start off really good and then, you lose 4 out of 5. You're 7-1. You look like you're the best team in the NFC, clearly. Ezekiel Elliott's running the ball really well. They have a good balance between the run and the pass. The defense is playing well. If you put Romo in there, and something that I think I brought up on a football show previous was you put Romo back in there, and it's kind of like on like a basketball team, where every guy has to get their certain number of touches, where, when you're Dak Prescott, you're the new guy. You don't get to dictate that sort of thing. You do what you're told, and that's the extent of it.
Mm-hmm.
But when Tony Romo's in there, well, maybe Romo gets a few more pass plays. Maybe Romo gets to chuck it up a little bit more. Whereas Dak Prescott just kind of, he gets the play, he reacts to it as he's been told to do, and that's that. There's no preconceived notion of what he has to do, what he's supposed to do, what he wants to do.
And nothing can go wrong when Tony Romo is just allowed to chuck it up.
Of course not. No. And that's the other thing is, like, sure, maybe the Cowboys will say that they've gotten over that whole stigma, but you know that Tony Romo's in there if he's starting in a playoff game or whatever. We're all going to be waiting for when's the interception. Whereas with Dak Prescott, you just say, "Oh, this kid can do it. You know, we believe in this kid. He hasn't made a mistake. He's only thrown one interception all season."
Yeah, and I think that was just recently, right?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and he's gone quite a bit. I just think that they're so good, and they've got everything working. I mean, even Des Bryant seems to be keeping things under control under Dak Prescott as the quarterback.
Yeah, you haven't heard anything from him.
Right,
really.
just leave it alone. And I'm with you, Zach. I think if Romo comes back, like Mike said, you're paying him all this money, he's getting paid to throw the football, so that's what he's going to do. And you throw off the whole balance of the offense. I think it's a tough spot to be in, first off, but me, it's like, I'm sorry, Tony, we're 7-1. So have a seat.
I think on a certain level, Jerry Jones, he's not a football guy. He's a football fan who owns a football team. And he's like, well, I like the passing plays, and so that's what we're going to do. And so I think in his mind, it's almost like it's a WWE sort of thing where it's just like, as long as it's an entertaining show, that's what's important.
I think I'm going to give him just a tad more credit than that, but I do think that you're right about the money thing, and I think he just likes Tony Romo, which is nothing wrong with that, but...
Well, the thing about liking Tony Romo is at a certain point... I mean, we're nearing the end of Tony Romo's career. At what point do we say, what's he done to warrant being liked?
If you think about it, he had, the one good season, which was, I don't even remember, 2-3 years ago? Because he's been pretty much hurt for the last at least 2 years.
Yeah, well, that was the DeMarco Murray year, where the last time they had a good balance of run and pass.
I just leave it alone. To me, it's like it's a no-brainer. And, I mean, if Prescott gets in trouble, sure, you've got a pretty good backup on the bench there, but short of that...
Tony Romo has this mythical status among Cowboys fans. He hasn't done anything.
He's just well-liked.
Why? I don't get it.
He's a nice boy that throws touchdowns every now and again.
He's also literally thrown away their season.
He's just he's a tragic folk hero. He puts up a bunch of stats. Yeah, he puts up a bunch of stats, leads them to promised land, and then just has to fall on his sword at the end of the day.
So is this going to be a case where in 50 years from now they're singing the ballad of Tony Romo?
Oh, I'm sure they're singing it now, probably.
Here's the thing, too. If you put Tony back in, and he's coming off an injury, he's rusty. If he's not good, and then you go back to Dak Prescott, it's not going to be the same thing where if it were Dak Prescott all the way, then, he finally starts to lose it towards the end of the season. You say, okay, you're taking us this far, kid. The team's starting to figure you out. We're going to put Tony back in there because we trust him and he knows what he's doing. If you put Tony in and then he's not good and then you bring Dak Prescott in and all of a sudden he's in a funk from sitting on the bench for a minute, then what do you do? Then you made it a bigger problem than it needed to be.
Or what happens if you do what the Broncos did last year and you take your promising, young quarterback, bench him after he does all right, in his time starting, and then he holds a grudge against you, and then he ends up signing with Houston.
There's a lot of ways they can screw this up. I could see the argument where as they get further down the road, like if they're in the playoffs, if he's not playing well, yeah, you probably got to go to Romo because I don't think a rookie quarterback's ever led a team to a Super Bowl. But I just think until the kid falls apart, you got to stay with him. Simple as that, because you're going to mess up the whole team. Like Mike said, what makes this guy so special that he can sit out? We go out and go 7-1 and they bring him back in based on what?
I would understand it if, this were Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or Aaron Rodgers, like a quarterback who has given the fan base and ownership a reason to believe in them. But it's Tony Romo. If anything, he's been a detriment to this team's ambitions.
We'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting, that's for sure. I want to talk about Jared Goff. I think the Rams totally blew this pick.
Here's the thing is we don't know. And I think that's the biggest problem with this whole Jared Goff LA Rams situation as it is right now, because all of a sudden we're finally fed up. During the game yesterday, there were chants of "we want Goff." Hell, there were chants of "we want Tebow" during the game.
Oh God!
And I am not making that up. The Rams offense, it looked fine for a while. Case Keenum was serviceable, but over the last 3-4 weeks, it has not been that. And it just seemed like coming out of the bye week, it would have been a perfect time to trot him out there. But all the quotes from Jeff Fisher each week is quarterback isn't the problem. This is his quote from this Sunday. "I would submit the case was not the reason we lost this game today. We just didn't make plays in all three phases. We'll circle the wagons with the coaches, look at the tape. But I'm pleased with the way the case is fought. As I consistently say repeatedly week after week, I'm pleased with Jared's progress." Okay, you didn't make plays in all three phases of the game, but you're pleased with Jared's progress. And quarterback's not the problem, but what if quarterback's not the problem, but quarterback could still be better because you're still not making plays in all three phases? But what if the quarterback comes in and Nick starts making plays? And then you only have to worry about the other two phases because you fixed one of them. And Jared Goff continues to progress. But you don't know because you're not going to play him. Even if Jeff Fisher knows that Jared Goff is going to be shit and that they made the wrong pick, the only way to get everybody off your back is to play the kid. There's nothing else to it.
I'm of the opinion these days that Jeff Fisher is a once competent coach who has sort of let the game pass him by.
I would agree with that. He had the one good year where he took the Titans to the Super Bowl, and he's been 8-8 ever since.
I get the sense that he's stuck in a very old school way of thinking to the detriment of the team. He's doing the whole sit the rookie thing so we don't ruin him, which is outdated. And on top of that, you want to talk about the Rams blowing the pick. I think they picked Goff because he went to a sexier school in Cal over, whatever North Dakota Community College or wherever it was that Carson Wentz went to.
He's a fighting eyeball from the North Dakota Optical Institute.
Yeah. And so it just seems like everything about this, from their selection of Goff to how they're treating him, all comes across as this is something someone who hasn't really progressed as a coach would do.
How many rookie quarterbacks are playing right now in the NFL? You've got Carson Wentz, Dak Prescott. It's not like it's unheard of these days to play a rookie quarterback. I watched Hard Knocks. Now, granted, you can't really take too much out of a TV series. It's meant to entertain and be controversial, so you really don't know. But I wasn't terribly impressed by, the Rams coaching staff or Jared Goff. All the coaching staff did was sit around and yell a bunch of shit that didn't mean anything. I didn't see anybody talk about, here's what you need to do this better. It was just all the typical platitude bullshit that, it was just like a bunch of cliches.
There's two theories kind of going on right now, at least in what I can gather from around here. One is that Jared Goff's no good. And they're not playing him because he's just not good. The coaching staff will never say that. The other option is that Jeff Fisher, he's in the last year of his contract. It was reportedly floated before the season that he had a contract extension on the table, that they were going to give it to him before the season even started. But there's been no news of that since. So with Case Keenum out there, if they lose with Case Keenum, well, they're supposed to lose with Case Keenum. He's not the future. They're still trying to get better. And so he can always keep in his back pocket, well, I haven't played Jared Goff yet. You can't judge the team or my performance because Jared's not out there quite yet. And maybe the Rams are doing middle of the road enough to earn a thing. Maybe he can get back to 7-9 or 8-8 like he has forever. And that's what keeps him in the league, is those 7-9 and 8-8s.
You know what? That doesn't surprise me at all. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he was manipulating this to try to buy himself an extra year on his contract.
But the problem is, with how much the Rams gave up for Jared Goff, and then you look around the league and you see all these other rookies, whether it's Dak Prescott doing very well, Carson Wentz started 3-0, but he's 4-5 since, but still looks like he's a guy that they can still build around, and they're getting to know what they have there, and they know that, okay, this is what we got, we're optimistic for the future, and we can build. If you're the Rams, Jared Goff needs to play, plain and simple, and it's just, we can be strung along so long, but he needs to play.
When you're the number one overall draft pick, you've got to come up with a better reason than he's progressing. And we're going to wait and see what happens. No. It doesn't work like that. Not in today's NFL. I mean, 20 years ago, sure, you can get away with that, but not today. Especially not when you've got other rookies playing. I mean, look at Prescott. Got the freaking Cowboys. What did they do last year? 6-10 or something like that? They weren't good. And they're 7-1. And I think the best team in the NFC right now, Jeff Fisher, I don't know.
Again, it seems like, to me, he's just kind of stuck in kind of an old way of thinking.
Case Keenum looked competent for a little while. Things started to pick up as over the first 4 games, and they looked like they got into a rhythm. And then they hit a ceiling, and they've come back down to earth pretty quickly. And we've seen Case Keenum play, not just this year, but in years past. You know what his worst is going to be. You know what his best is going to be. You know average what he's going to give you. What the Rams kind of are right now is what they will be with Case Keenum. Maybe Jared Goff, all these things that we've seen, maybe he's just needed some time to really acclimate. Maybe he's ready now, and you throw him out there in the fire, and he does well. And then you start winning games. The worst is you gave up a whole lot of picks, and you're going to suck this season. Or you're going to suck this season. Or the best you can get with Jared Goff is maybe you start improving. But as it stands right now, the Rams are what they are. And Case Keenum's not going to change that.
You had some optimism at 3-1, but you can't pin all your hopes on Case Keenum.
No, that's the thing. And Zach said that you know what he is at his best and what he is at his worst. And the problem is those two aren't that far apart. It's not like he's great when he's good and bad when he's bad. It's like when he's good, he's a little bit better than bad. It's got to be frustrating as hell because Keenum's just, I mean, let's be honest, he sucks. And it's like they keep running him out there and they won't do anything about it.
Exactly.
Ladies and gentlemen, Zach's Tabs.
Zach's Tabs.
Take it away.
We talked about the emotional scene of the families writing things on the wall outside of Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, unfortunately, that wall will have to be cleaned as of 5 p.m. tomorrow. They have to fence off that area to start more off-season construction work to finish up the renovations on Wrigley Field. It says, due to the off-season construction, we will need to fence in these beautiful postseason murals and remove the artwork from all areas of the ballpark. While we hate to remove these cherished messages, chalk is a fleeting medium. To preserve these images, we will continue to photograph the outfield bleacher walls so that we may share these postseason wall messages publicly in the future.
Well, that's cool. God bless them, man. I'm glad they're enjoying this. I mean, they're really taking it for all it's worth, and good for them.
How long until we are collectively sick of the Chicago Cubs?
I don't think it's going to happen. This thing will just kind of fade away quietly, and that'll be it. They're going to enjoy their title, and then I don't think it'll happen. That's my feeling.
You don't think they're going to be like Red Sox fans? Man,
I sure hope not.
I don't think they will either, though. Red Sox fans were annoying before they won, and so they just, like, once they won, they became kind of worse. The Red Sox were constantly matched up against the Yankees, so they kind of have to match each other in terms of being assholes.
Right. It was just two asshole fan bases feeding off of each other, making each other stronger.
So the Cubs, their main rivals are the Cardinals. And so, the Cardinal way, the Cubs fans just be like, shove it up your ass.
By the way, the best fans in baseball Twitter was delightful after the Cubs won.
I think the Cubs fans, to me, the difference between them and the Red Sox, when the Red Sox won in 2004, they were like, this is fucking great. My grandfather, blah, 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 fuck you, blah, blah, blah.
Right, it's like, this is what we deserve to have. We deserve this because we're so great.
The Cubs are like, oh my God, this is so wonderful. I wish my grandfather were here to see this. That's the difference.
Oh my God, the Cubs won the world. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a difference in attitude, and I hope to God I'm right about this, but I don't think that by spring training we're going to be like, oh my God, get over the Cubs or anything. I think they'll be fine.
But I'm not even necessarily talking about Cubs fans becoming annoying. I'm just saying, how long until the baseball media overexposes them? Are we going to get to that point where we're just like, I'm just sick of the Cubs being on TV?
I don't know that you could really do much to add to what they do already. And again, I could be way off base on this, but I think it's just a different thing between these guys and Red Sox fans or Yankees fans or whatever. I think 108 years will humble a person. So, I hope I'm right. I don't think that we got anything to worry about with the Cubs. I think we'll be fine.
Last one I'll throw in here. On election eve, I'll give you one last bit of political garbage from Curt Schilling. He retweeted a photo.
Is it just him in a Hitler outfit?
No, the photo says, okay, so much awesome here. And the picture is of a man wearing a black T-shirt, and on the back of the T-shirt have the words rope, period, tree, period, journalist, period. Some assembly required.
Nice.
Curt fucking Schilling, man.
Which, when I retweeted, I said, okay, guy, whatever. Because, I'm somebody that works in the media, and I don't appreciate that. This is also why I choose sports media over political media.
Yeah.
So that's fun that Curt Schilling wants to lynch reporters. That's a good use of the the First Amendment.
Isn't it journalists who vote for the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, sure are.
Yeah. Okay, there you go.
The other thing, and Deadspin smartly points this out. The other thing to note here when it comes to Curt Schilling's Twitter account, his Twitter avatar picture is still the picture of his sewn-up ankle from 2004.
Oh, jeez. Fucking douchebag.
Isn't that sock in the Hall of Fame?
No, the sock is the original sock. No one knows where it is. I read an article. It might have been on Deadspin, I don't remember, where someone said basically that for the longest time they didn't believe that it was possible that he might have faked the whole sock thing, but then he did something else. Oh, it was he put up this big fight in one of the games in the World Series that year where I don't want to come out. They had him mic'd up throughout the game, and what they heard was that in the bottom of the seventh inning, him telling the catcher, I'm done. Don't let him bring me back out here for the next inning. And then when he went back to the dugout, he had a big argument with Francona because they were mic'd up and he wanted to make it look like I'm a big-time gamer and I don't want to come out. When the truth is, he said, I'm fucking finished. Don't let me go back out there. All of a sudden, you're like, you know what? I wouldn't put it past him at all to fake his own sock and all that shit. The guy's just a complete asshole. He was a borderline, at best, Hall of Famer to begin with. He can forget it now. It'll never happen.
Well, when you go out and insult the people who choose the Hall of Fame, like, Jesus.
Something that happened during the show, but I guess came up. Donald Trump still claiming that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick have endorsed him for president.
Okay. Here's the thing about this election, right? I heard this, I forget where, the other day. The campaign has been going on for 600 fucking days. That's 600.
Do you realize that in Commonwealth countries, the longest campaigns last 2 months?
We need to do something about this. I mean, 600 fucking days? Are you kidding me with this?
The last election in Canada at the end of 2015 was something like 89 days, and it was one of the longest campaigns in Canadian history.
It's just got to stop. You just beat people to death with it. Anyway, are we done?
Just to kind of close up the whole loop, Trump also endorsed Curt Schilling's senatorial run. So,
of course he did.
No matter what happens tomorrow, win or lose, first off, if you didn't vote, you're stupid. Just go vote at the very least. And no matter what happens, be glad that it's over. I don't think anybody's going to particularly like who ends up getting picked tomorrow, but they're going to be our commander-in-chief, and you have to support them for what it's worth and just be happy that we don't have to listen to them argue with each other for another 600 days.
You're the puppet.
Another way to look at it, too, is we're only 400 days away from the 2020 election starting, so there's something to look forward to.
Wrong.
All right, anyway, you guys know the routine by now.
Wrong.
Follow us at Basically Sports.
Wrong.
All the other bullshit. We'll see you next time.
China.
We are bigly out of here.